All right. All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get the show started. Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience. We're still missing a couple of grannies. Unfortunately, we thought they were here, but they are sadly are not. So we might take like an intermission between speakers to let one granny that's here speak. All right, hello everyone. Thank you for coming out and welcome to our Veterans Town Hall. I can't believe we made this happen. It was like felt like for an eternity. But I'm Steve Acosta. For those that don't know me, I will be your co-host tonight, and I am the founder of Johnston County Indivisible. We are a nonpartisan, pro-democracy, pro-rule of law group. If you want to be part of the conversation for bringing positive change to our current political climate, or maybe you're feeling a little disappointed in what's going on right now, there might be a place for you in our group. So please join us. You'll see some QR codes laying around, and you can also see some of our volunteers, and they can take your information, and we'll get in touch with you. Sign up to get a free American flag, too. All right. I look forward to some thoughtful conversation tonight from both our amazing speakers and from all of you in the audience. We will be having a Q&A session with the speakers later. Unfortunately, I don't think our representative Nickel is going to be able to stay for that. We will have, unfortunately, an empty chair. All right. So if you would like to participate in the Q&A session, please see one of our volunteers. They will give you a card where you can collect your thoughts beforehand. And when the Q&A session begins, we'll ask that you raise the card to indicate that you would like to speak. And so you can address one of our esteemed speakers, or you can address the empty chair. Before we dive in, I would like to take a moment. I should probably be standing in front of the camera. Before we dive in, I would like to take a moment to thank Raleigh Brewing Company for hosting this event. They have been absolutely incredible to work with. As a small volunteer group here in Johnston County, we really appreciate the time and support they've offered us. It really means a lot. Thank you so much. Right. And Raleigh Brewing Company, by the way, is a great American business story. If you don't already know this, Christy Neisted started the first woman-owned, woman-led brewery in the entire state of North Carolina. The very first. Their craft beer can be found through tap rooms. What's that? Our beer can be found through tap rooms and grocery stores throughout the state, and they are all brewed, kegged, and bottled right here in this building in Johnston County. Every drop. So not only do they bring us this fabulous tap room for entertainment, but they are also helping build a better, more prosperous Johnston County by providing local jobs and tax revenue. Again, thank you so much. By the way, if you don't already know this, the tap room is open, and and Fired Up Pizza and Barbecue is serving some great food. So please show them our appreciation for hosting this event. All right, and I want to say also a quick thank you to Ann Hemingway Foyer. Ann, where are you at? Over here. Folks, if it wasn't for Ann, this would be literally a standing only event. She graciously volunteered to pay for the rental fees for all the chairs. So thank you so much, Ann. And now for the reason we are here, to support our military veterans. I am a U.S. Navy veteran myself, and I can say nobody loves the country more than the folks who raise their hand to serve our nation, right? But our country has failed them for too long, actually across multiple administrations, not just this one, but this one has done particularly a lot of harm, right? And it's time to defend those who bravely defended us, right? So are there any veterans in the audience tonight? Right. Will you please stand up and be recognized? Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, to my brothers and sisters in arms, thank you for your service to this country. And for those that didn't make it home, we owe you everything. All right, and with that, we have a great lineup of speakers tonight, possibly our next U.S. Senator. And we have some expert advocates on veterans' health and support issues. We invited 5 people to speak tonight, and as you can see, 4 accepted and are here. Right? And we're gonna do this really big pun together, right? But one did not. All right, so I had to throw that in there somewhere. All right, it's too tempting to avoid that pun. All right. So all joking aside, though, I really wish that seat wasn't empty. Right? We need to be able to have civil conversations with the people who represent us, and I truly hope that someday we can get back to that. But for now, we're going to carry the conversation forward ourselves. Right? And with that, Mary, we'll go ahead and get started. Do you want to take honors from here?
Our first speaker is the one and only Wiley Nickel. I have a nice, beautiful introduction for you. Okay. Wiley Nickel is the former congressman who represented North Carolina's toss-up 13th district in the 118th Congress until he was gerrymandered out of his seat. Now he's continuing his fight for working families, and he's running for U.S. Senate against Thom Tillis in 2026. Yeah! Wiley is a father and a husband and worked for 2 White Houses, including for President Barack Obama, where he fought for the hope and change for America. He served 2 terms in the North Carolina State Senate before being elected to Congress, where he represented the Seymour Johnson Air Force Base and thousands of veterans across Wake, Wayne, Johnston, and Harnett counties. In Congress, Wiley pushed for bipartisan legislation to expand TRICARE, really important to the veterans, improve affordable housing options for veterans, and improve the quality and access to health care and dental care throughout the VA. And now, here's Wiley.
Thank you so much. It's great to be back here in Johnston County. It was an amazing honor to be your voice in the U.S. Congress, and I can promise you I worked with every ounce of my energy to represent this community in Congress. We did 16 town halls during my time in Congress, and I think it's so important that if you are elected to serve in Washington, you show up to represent the people that you serve. But I can tell you one thing, Brad Knott and Thom Tillis are not going to show up in Johnston County because they can't with what's happening in Washington right now. They can't sit down and answer basic questions, especially when you're talking about democracy, when you're talking about veterans. There's no answers for what's happening right now, and I want to talk about that. But this, for me, is a special place. After I got elected to Congress, we did a thank you event here right at this brewery to thank the folks. And Johnston County was literally the difference. The numbers we got above other Democrats in Johnston County were a huge part in sending me to Congress in one of the closest districts in the country. It was what districts should look like. It was a 50-50 district where, it wasn't a Democratic district or a Republican district. It was a fair district. It was a district where the best ideas won, and there are so few of those in Washington. So I spent so much of my time in Congress fighting for fair maps, and we could continue that, hope to continue that work in the U.S. Senate. But that was really one of the defining things that I found in Congress. One of the biggest divides wasn't Democrat or Republican. It was safe seat versus competitive seats. And there are so few of these competitive districts. But I was willing to do anything to make my point about why we needed to get fair maps. And I went out of my comfort zone a little bit. And I told folks I would do anything to draw attention to the need to get fair maps. And so we had this veterans group who said, we have this nonprofit right by Fort Bragg where we'd go skydiving. And it was the guy who runs it was the one who parachuted with George H.W. Bush every time for his birthday. And so I went skydiving to draw attention to the need for fair maps. An amazing veterans nonprofit, highly recommend. But listen, I'm here to talk about Johnston County. I'm here to talk about veterans and what we ought to be doing a lot better in Washington. And let me just tell you, I am angry. I am mad. We've got a president shredding the Constitution that so many of you fought for in the Oval Office right now. We've got a president deliberately tanking our economy with tariffs that are going to represent $4,000 a year as a tax increase for working families in Johnston County. And we've got an unelected billionaire rampaging through the federal government, cutting and slashing programs that veterans and North Carolina families rely on. So, and when you talk about, just one, we can talk about a whole lot, and I can't stay for a few questions, but the VA, they are slashing 80,000 jobs from the VA. That is not going to lead to better care for our veterans. It's literally going to be a death sentence for so many when they're not going to be able to get access to care, when they're going to be waiting longer. That's not what folks in Johnston County care about, but that's what we're seeing in Washington right now. And who do we have to thank for so much of it? The enablers who stand by when they know what's right and they do the wrong thing in the U.S. Senate. And that's folks like Tom Tillis, who we know in Johnston County, he will say one thing and do another. And when the chips are down, Tom Tillis isn't going to stand up for Johnston County. He's not going to stand up for our veterans. He's going to stand up for Donald Trump and Elon Musk and policies that are horrible for North Carolina. And that's Tom Tillis, absolutely. And let me just tell you, when Tom Tillis said he didn't like Trump's tariffs, but then he voted for the tariffs. He said he didn't like Pete Hegseth, but then he proudly voted to confirm Pete Hegseth a walking national security disaster as Secretary of Defense. So we need folks who are going to stand up for North Carolina. And I just want to say, we had some lessons from this last election. North Carolinians are very independent-minded. They vote for the best candidate, and they said they wanted two things. They wanted folks who are going to tackle the inflation and who are going to bring down costs. And so what are we seeing in Washington? We're seeing policies that do exactly the opposite, that just totally screw middle-class families in North Carolina. Talk about inflation. When you're adding $2.5 trillion to the national debt that every single one of us is going to have to pay for, that's going to cause inflation to go up. They're doing it to pay for massive tax cuts for billionaires like Elon Musk. And then with these tariffs, again, a $4,000 tax increase for everybody in this event here under this tent. That's going to be really bad for North Carolina. It's going to make costs go up, and it's not going to help families. So for me, this was no time to sit on the sidelines. I know how to win tough races. With Johnston County's help, I flipped one of just 6 Republican seats from red to blue, and now I'm at it with the U.S. Senate, hoping to earn your vote in this next election. As I end here, usually my call to action is for those who don't like the way we're going, they don't like the direction we're heading. Volunteer, vote, give money to candidates, get active in causes that you support. And if you want to do that for me, certainly, I'd be glad to have your help, your support. WileyNickel.com is my website. But my call to action isn't for you. It's for none of you here. Because you're showing up. You are doing your part to participate in democracy. My call to action is to our elected leaders. Whether it's the Democrats who aren't using their leverage, they certainly aren't tough enough in the face of what's happening in Washington, or Republicans like Brad Knott, who is not going to show up for you. He's not going to answer your questions. He's not going to talk about how he's helping to make veterans health care better. And for Tom Tillis, who's not going to show up either, my call to action is for them to do their job, to get in front of their constituents, answer their questions. One of my former colleagues, Virginia Fox, said, "Oh yeah, no, I'm not going to do town halls." You know why? She said, "Oh, they're just going to yell at me." I mean, of course they're going to yell at you if you're not representing them. So that's what's at stake here. I'm so grateful to see so many of you out here. After we hear from our folks here, I can take a few questions before I have to jump to my next thing. But incredibly grateful to be with you tonight. Thanks so much.
Okay, our next speaker is Dr. Kyle Horton, right there. Dr. Kyle Horton is a leader in the complicated arena of healthcare delivery and on issues and inequities impacting public health. She is an internal medicine physician who earned an MBA as a part of a dual degree physician leadership development program. She brought her commitment to improving veterans care, health equity, and fighting for healthier, safer environments to her candidacy for the U.S. House of Representatives in 2018. Dr. Kyle was raised in a family with a long history of service in the United States Armed Forces, and she has carried the spirit of service on by caring for veterans with the Department of Veterans Affairs, including working for a post-deployment clinic for Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. Yay. There, she trained the next generation of VA physicians to address the physical and mental health needs of our returning heroes. She earned the VA Silver Award for quality and commitment to patient-centered care for her patient-aligned care team called PACT. Dr. Kyle has years of experience working with the veteran community and in advocacy, especially in the area of mental health. She worked alongside veterans advocacy groups on Capitol Hill for the passage of the Clay Hunt Suicide Prevention for American Veterans Act. She has since championed changes in quality of care improvements to address opiate safety, military sexual trauma, women veteran suicide prevention, and veteran burn pit exposures. Dr. Kyle Horton.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Johnston County. Let's go, Johnston County. Way to show up for our veterans. I know Wiley Nickel is going to show up for our veterans. I know our other speakers are, and we know all of you are going to show up in place of Brad Knott and Tom Tillis. Because make no mistake, real Americans are anti-fascism. I'm not the only one in this room, I'm sure, who has a grandfather who served in World War II. My grandpa landed in Normandy D-Day +1, okay? And when we go to DC, some of you will be in Raleigh on June 6th. We are standing up for the Constitution. We're standing up for the values of Johnston County. We're standing up for those real American patriotic values that you guys are embodying today. Those who serve, like Scott, like you, like Chris, who's in the back, okay? And we're standing up for what we all believe in, that it's core to why we are Americans, why you're flying those flags so proudly, and one of the things I love about Johnston County. So when I ran, I had a little sliver here. I know many of you from Them Women. Love you guys. I have missed you so much. Okay, I am still doing the work every day, and the fight is getting harder every moment. He mentioned 80,000, 1,400 VA employees were basically massacred from federal service on Valentine's Day. And the toxic exposures fight is really acute right now. If you did not realize, the Republicans are trying to get by on some deceptive messaging in the fact that, sorry, I walk for the video, okay, they were already 15 billion short. He knows this. McDonough asked for more money to fund the PACT Act. The PACT Act was that big bill we all fought for, to get the benefits for the veterans that they earn, that they are owed. And make no mistake, those who wrote a blank check in service to this country with their lives do not deserve to be penny pinched by Washington bureaucrats and BS politicians like Tom Tillis and like Brad Knott, who won't even show up for our veterans and answer their questions. They deserve to be represented by the likes of Wiley Nickel, by the likes of me, who did 2 town halls basically every district work week just to prove that you can ask me anything, I will answer it for you. So right now, with the toxic exposures fight, they are set to cut another $22 billion, it looks like, and they're trying to get away with the fact that there already isn't this shortfall in VA funding that they are going to make even more acute. But what I want to make you aware of is many of you, like me, who grew up around a defense community were exposed to water contamination and other soil and air contamination with things like TCE, PCE, burn pits, okay, and with PFAS chemicals, right, like Gen X. And you know about those here. We know we have an industrial polluter, Chemours at Fayetteville, okay? So we need everybody fighting together because doctors do not know about these chemicals, okay? Many of you already picked up an orange armband. I'm going to tell you something that you know nothing about. At the former Fort Ord in California, we just made national news because we found that they were mixing the two active toxicants in Agent Orange, I kid you not, Agent Orange, and spraying thousands of gallons of it at the former Fort Ord in California. How we found this was female veterans in their 40s were diagnosed with a rare blood cancer that's usually, it's called multiple myeloma. It's usually diagnosed in men in their 70s, okay? These women were having it in their 40s, and they identified this cluster of cases. There's a huge TCE plume, okay? These are cancer-causing chemicals. So PFAS are now called a group 1 carcinogen, which means the PFOA, the old one, is known to cause cancer in humans. But none of you are being screened, and guess who also isn't being screened in an evidence-based way for these chemicals? None of our veterans, and he knows this. He did an event specifically about this. So the armband you are wearing, though, is a particularly egregious, horrible thing, which is to say, we found at Fort Ord, Agent Orange is still killing folks. We know they were also using Agent Orange at McClellan for certain, and there are other bases impacted, about 1,400 with TCE in particular, in addition to PFAS at levels that would cause cancer. You should be screened for kidney cancers, testicular cancer that we kind of stopped screening for because it's not cost effective. In those of you who have been exposed to these chemicals, we should be going through self-exams and things like that for men who are at risk, right? Thyroid screenings are not being done, but you can be a part of the solution for that, which is to say, I have a 501c3 On Your Side Health, okay? Remember, On Your Side Health. I'm speaking now on the advocacy side, and I'm going to give you a petition that you can sign in just a second, okay? On Your Side Health has a program where I'm working to educate local clinicians about these things that deviate from the usual standard of care. So you can take a letter to your doctor, okay? And this goes for the veterans because many of you are in the private sector, your VA doctor isn't screening you right, okay? And you can take that to your doctor. It's called a Medical Patriot Project, and you'll see the letter on our website, okay? So that we can make sure that you're getting the screenings that you should have. And then for the veterans, I want you to know about one quick, totally un-American crazy thing that happened. In Trump's first term, his VA secretary, Wilkie, remember Wilkie came from Tillis's office, and he was the one that they wanted fired because he covered up a sexual assault. If you remember that little nugget of truth, right? Okay. So what he did was, from the PACT Act, there was a provision that would actually align the DOD and VA lists of where they use herbicides. Herbicides are like Agent Orange. What Wilkie did is he basically said, screw you to the Government Accountability Office, the nonpartisan Government Accountability Office, and said, screw you to the PACT Act. And what he did was he empowered this secretive Department of Defense board to censor all of the veterans and basically cover up any evidence and ensure that no veterans can ever get their benefits. So VA has on their public health page, if you were exposed to Agent Orange, they are sending you to contact this DOD Armed Forces Pest Management Board. The pests that this management board are managing are veterans and the truth. And they're trying to manage the likes of Wiley Nickel and myself, who are going to tell you the truth about what's going on with your exposures and the fact that you're at risk of cancers. So these orange armbands, okay, it's a little bit funny. People, you can say this is anti-Trump because you just heard about how he was responsible for this un-American censoring our veterans and destroying their voices at VA where they should get their benefits. benefits that they earned writing a blank check in service to this country with their lives. So our petition is calling for changes that would re-empower the veterans, stop this un-American censorship of veterans, and ensure that they get the evidence-based care, including for TCE, PFAS, and PCE, and other cancer-causing chemicals. So let's be a part of the solution. OnYourSideAction.com is where you can go. There's a DoD herbicide petition. But remember, all of us are united who are veterans, who are in defense communities. All of us in Johnston County embody real American values and want to stand up for the Constitution. Let's fight together. Let's go Johnston County. Thank you.
All right, we have all of our grannies now. So we are gonna take a brief intermission to hear from the grannies. Can we get this other mic, by the way? All right, here you go, Ann.
Okay.
Hi. There are many, many Raging Grannies groups all over this country, and we're starting to move into other countries too, because there's a lot of stuff to rage about. We are part of the Triangle Raging Grannies, which is a group of about 25, but obviously only 3 of us made it here tonight. But we're going to sing some, you'll recognize these tunes. Okay. The first one is called Defend Our Freedoms. And it goes like this. We've come to JoCo and we are raging because we've heard the scary news that our rights are now in peril and our defenders we could lose. What a state we're in, where they can jail us or just run us down with cars, and there'll be no one to defend us. This fascist scheme has gone too far. Our country's history is based on freedoms for which we fought in bloody wars. But if we can't protect these freedoms, then what the hell are we fighting for? If you think, just as I once did, that this can't happen here, stick your head into the sand and say goodbye to your derriere. It's time to speak out, time to sing out, time to shout out loud and clear. Our civil liberties must be protected, or else we know they'll disappear. Here in Smithfield and wherever we go, here's the message that we bring. Keep your hands off our civil liberties. Let freedom ring, let freedom ring. All right, second song. We abbreviated this second song, but you still might recognize the tune. 234 years ago, my country gave to me the right to live proud and free. 234 years ago, my country gave to me the right to form a militia, no quartering of soldiers, protection from search and seizure, due process of law, the right to a speedy trial, the right to a jury of my peers, no cruel and unusual punishment, the sanctity of all these rights, and the right to live proud and free. Power to the people. I think you guys like these songs. All right. The last one, you'll also recognize this tune. And the reason why that last one was 234 years ago is because the Bill of Rights was added to the Constitution in 1791. I did not know that. I'm not a history buff. But anyway, okay. This last one is called Declaration of Human Rights. We're concerned about our Bill of Rights. We're using it no more. Our human rights are being swept aside now that we've got a new emperor. He'll send our prisoners to be tortured. With no trial, he'll jail them all. But we won't let him trash our rights or trample on our freedoms. We're going to show him we stand tall. Thank you. We'll protect our voting rights and the right to plan our families. The right to drinking water pure and clean. And the rights of our migrants and their dreams. The right to build sanctuary cities and to walk the streets without a fear. So we won't let him trash our rights or trample on our freedoms. We're going to show him we stand tall. We'll protect the Bill of Rights and speak out when and where we please. Or what's the use of true democracy if we can't get up off our knees? Use or lose our right to protest, to read and think and gather round. But we won't let him trash our rights or trample on our freedoms. We're going to show him we stand tall.
Wow. You guys have to follow that. That was excellent. Lots of fun. Thank you. Back to the good stuff. Our next speaker is Scott Peoples, who's sitting over there waving. Okay. Scott Peoples is an Army veteran and a former paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne Division from 2009 to 2014. Since leaving the Army, he has served as a veterans advocate in many ways. He worked for an organization called Hire Heroes USA, which helped transitioning military service members and unemployed veterans find meaningful employment. He volunteered with an organization called The Vote, which recruits military veterans to serve as election workers, and served as a poll worker in 2022 and 2024 election cycles. He now serves on the board of directors for Veterans for Responsible Leadership, which is an organization that supports public servants that put principles over power and country over party. It also serves as a community for veterans who are looking to continue to protect democracy and the Constitution. He most recently served as a veteran surrogate for the Kamala Harris campaign in North Carolina and was an opening speaker for Vice President Harris, Governor Walz, and Governor Cooper at numerous rallies. He also served as the co-chair alongside former North Carolina Supreme Court Justice Bob Orr for the Republicans for Harris coalition. He was a former lifelong Republican, but left the party in 2016 and has been an outspoken critic of the Trump administration about veterans and national security issues. Scott Peoples.
Thank you. And thank you so much to everyone for coming out tonight. This is an awesome event. As Mary said, I'm a veteran. I'm, after a husband and a father, the most meaningful title I'll hold is being a paratrooper. It's one of the greatest honors of my life, being able to serve this country. So, if I ever got to meet Brad Knott, I would ask, why did you get into public service? If you're not here to meet the people, talk to them. You are, our representative, a public servants of us. And this should be the fun part. He's stuck in Washington all the time. Think he'd want to come out to a nice brewery. None of us bite. We're here to have a civil conversation. So, as soon as he got elected and I saw the news about the cuts to the VA, I emailed his office, keep doing it weekly, about, as a veterans advocate, what's going on? Like, how is this going to impact the veterans in North Carolina 13? I live in this district down in Wake County, and I go to the Durham VA Medical Center as my primary care, like I'm sure some of the veterans do here as well, or driving down to the Fayetteville Medical Center. And I just emailed him saying, as the representative, it doesn't matter who voted for you, it doesn't matter if a veteran is Republican or Democrat, we're owed the rights that we fought for, and we deserve to know what's going on in the Trump administration, how it's going to impact our health care. So hadn't received a response for 2 months, but I wrote multiple op-eds. I spoke at rallies downtown, calling him out and just trying to get on his radar. And a few days ago, I finally got my first response, so maybe it's getting out to him. And he came back and said that he fully supports what Elon Musk and Donald Trump and Secretary Collins are doing at the VA. So we got him on the record. At least we know where he stands. So I wrote back. I said, well, here's a perfect chance for you to come out and talk to the veterans. Maybe there's something we don't know. Maybe cutting 83,000 people will somehow improve our care and our wait times. I'm not a math major. I don't know how that works, but maybe Elon Musk is creating some sort of supercomputers that are going to process all our claims or make all our schedules or whatnot. But here's an opportunity to get in front of us and just speak what you're voting for and what you're supporting. Because he's telling us to blindly support what Elon Musk and Secretary Collins is doing by going back to 2019 levels at the VA. So when the Trump administration came out and said, we were going to make the staffing back to 2019, I thought to myself, okay, I've been going to the VA since 2014. I remember a lot of stories coming out of 2019. And some of us remember that there was some really tragic things happening. That year, 2019, over 50 veterans committed suicide in VA parking lots because they weren't getting the service that they needed. A terrible tragedy. So anyone who went to the VA in 2019, I don't think we ever walked in and been like, wow, this place is overstaffed. Man, they have too many people here. They're serving us too. The service is too great. No. So for them to say now that the PACT Act has been passed, and we've almost 1 million more veterans have entered the VA since 2022, which is amazing. These are people that, for years going back to Vietnam, may have not been, they might have been denied the claim that for the benefits they deserved. Now they are in the system, getting the care they need. And what the Biden administration did was they hired, almost 100,000 people to work at the VA. And I must say, I can't speak for every veteran, but the last few years, the service has gotten a lot better. There's ways to go. The VA is not perfect, but the PACT Act just started. We have to give this years, for these people to get hired and for the services to improve. But in the first 100 days of the Trump administration, they're going to tear all that progress down. And for what? For tax cuts for billionaires. So we're here to put veterans benefits over billionaires and to give these veterans, the honor and the dignity that they deserve. They're penny pinching, as Dr. Horton said. This isn't saving, our government tons of money, but it's ruining a lot of lives for people that serve this country, and it's not right. So I was also wanting to go down to the district office to talk to Congressman Knott about this, but Many of you may know this already. There's 14 congressional districts in North Carolina. There's one congressman who doesn't even have an office in his district, and it's Congressman Knott. That is unacceptable. He's been in Congress for 4 months now, and every other congressman, Democrat or Republican, have multiple district offices. So he's either lazy, incompetent, or arrogant, or all of the above. But it's unacceptable for him to not have an office so we can go talk to either him or his staff. Not showing up. And in District 13, probably the most important issue to veterans that could really make an impact is, some of you may not even know, but there is a VA hospital that is going to have almost the amount of the services that at the Durham VA that's being built in Garner. It's being built since 2020. And I called his office. It was supposed to open in February. Now it was supposed to open in June. And I just spoke to someone in the Garner City Council, and now it's pushed back to September. And they didn't give the exact reasons why, but I think we can put 2 and 2 together that I don't know how you're going to cut 83,000 people from the VA while simultaneously opening new VA clinics that are going to run smoothly. It doesn't work. There was just a VA clinic that opened in Chesapeake, Virginia a week ago, where it was supposed to be staffed with 550 people, and they opened it with 150 people. I was at the Durham VA not too long ago. I spoke to people that are coming from Virginia, coming from Jacksonville, because the Durham VA is, they're going to be one of the last centers to lose people. It's really going to be the rural VA communities that are going to get hit the most first. So I called his office, and you would think, if you're putting veterans first, this would be your number one priority for veterans in your district. And I had to tell them what was going on. They had no clue. So, Congressman Knott, I'm going to keep calling your office. I'm going to keep because someone like me, I don't have to drive an hour to Durham. If I only got to drive 20 minutes to Garner, that's going to be awesome. So, anyone who is looking for information about, I'm going to take it upon myself here to keep on the Garner City Council. I have business cards, so if you're wondering about when the Garner VA is going to open and staffing issues, call me, email me, and veterans helping veterans. I'm going to try and make sure you all have the information that you need. And I have one other topic I wanted to talk about. There are so many things, as an advocate, I try to bring topics that might not be on the front page of the news. And I had what's going on right now, I had a long list, but one that's just come in the news in the last few weeks that I think needs a lot more attention and really is a moral stain on our country right now is there are Afghan refugees, about 4,000 in the Triangle area itself, that about 2 weeks ago received an email from Department of Homeland Security that said that their temporary protective status was being revoked, and they had 7 days to leave the country or the officials would start hunting them down, basically. So if you want to support veterans, especially veterans that served in Iraq and Afghanistan, you support the allies that were with us throughout the whole war, had our backs, and then after the fall of Afghanistan, probably one of the most heart-wrenching but prideful moments I had as a veteran. The veteran community really came together to do everything we could to get any Afghan ally or refugee out of that country before we left. I knew people that were on Signal chats for months, people in the area trying to get their translators or interpreters that they served without, because our country asked these veterans, or at the time soldiers, to look these Afghan allies in the eye and say, if you serve with us, if you protect us in our mission, we will make sure that you come home with us. And now they're making these service members potentially lose their friends and basically their family members. And we are sending them back to a regime in the Taliban that is going to murder them. It is a death sentence. It is a suicide mission for these people. So I'm asking every single one of you, call Congressman Knott, Senator Tillis. We need to make this issue front and center. Because after the invasion, I volunteered with this organization called World Relief that helped Afghan refugees resettle into the area. I felt like I had to do something. And there was this one beautiful girl that she said she wanted to go to UNC Chapel Hill for dental school because she wanted to fix the smiles of the girls back in Afghanistan because they never smile, and she wants to help them smile. And it just touched my heart. And someone like this, especially the girls and the women, if they get sent back to Afghanistan, it is the worst existence there is on this planet. If anyone deserves asylum, it is our allies and the refugees from Afghanistan. So please, let's all come together as a veteran community and right this wrong, because they stood by us for 20 years. We need to stand by them. So in closing, I just want to, as my call to action, I was 15 when 9/11 happened, and I remember this country coming together on September 12th like never before. We all, Republican, Democrat, Independent, it did not matter. We all were neighbors, we were brothers and sisters, and we came together as a country. And I knew at that moment, it was deep down inside me, I want to defend the values of this country. This is what America is all about. Because there's a saying, America is great because America is good. And the second America stops being good, that's when America will stop being great. And right now, we are not, there are a lot of us we are not a good country. That shining city on the hill that Ronald Reagan spoke about, myself, a former Republican, a John McCain Republican, he's still my favorite public servant. I wish he was alive today in this moment. But, we are in this moment together. History put us together in this moment to rebuild that shining city on the hill. It's going to get dark over the next few years. There's going to be a lot of bad days, but this community right here has to stand by each other. So before you leave today, find someone you don't know in this community, introduce yourself, ask what's their most important issue to them, and really listen and get to know your neighbors and your community, because it is going to be us that's going to get through this to the other side. But believe us, we will get there, airborne all the way.
Our last speaker is Heather Sprague. She's down there in the corner. I actually asked her to speak after I was chatting on the phone with her one evening, and she was telling me a story, and I said, oh, please, you got to tell that to our group. So she became our fourth speaker. Heather is an educator and an activist who has spent the past 3 years building an online community focused on civil literacy and engagement for North Carolinians. Through her @moms4nc Instagram account, Heather works to make complex civic issues more accessible and empowers everyday people to get involved in shaping their communities. Today, she's here to share insights on the Jefferson Griffin case and why it matters not only for the 65,000 people whose votes have been challenged, but for every single American who cherishes the right to vote. Heather?
Thank you so much for that kind introduction. This is my first speaking event, so I need notes. But I'm a mom of 3. I have 3 sons. They're in Cub Scouts. They're in Boy Scouts. We're almost done a very painful Eagle Scout project. Pray for me. So I've been outspoken my entire adult existence. It is an honor to be here with you all this evening and with this esteemed panel. My name is Heather. I am a Carolina grad. Do we have any Carolina fans in the house? Couple. I married an NC State grad. Do we have any Wolfpack in the house? Somehow, in our household, we gave birth to 3 children who are Duke fans. Yeah! We like to say we're an equal opportunity household. Does anyone here watch March Madness? So earlier this month, you may have heard that Duke made it to the Final Four. And they played Houston. and Houston beat them by 3 points. Now, some of us found deep joy in this outcome, and some of us were deeply disappointed. I personally was devastated. But let's imagine for a moment that as Houston began cutting down the nets after the game, the Duke threw their hands up and ran over to the referees and argued, no, the 3-point line is actually a foot further back. And Houston didn't win that game. What do you think would have happened in the stands? As my sons would say, hands would be thrown. You can't change the rules after a game has been played. It's a basic rule we teach our children and a fundamental cornerstone of living in a civil society. The story I'm going to tell you tonight is about changing the rules after a game has been played and how a set of court cases unfolding right here in North Carolina are setting the stage to overturn democratic elections across all 50 states. Let's dive in. There was an election 6 months ago. You may have heard about it. When you went to vote, there were 20-some races on your ballot. And as you went down your ballot, the 13th race was for the North Carolina Supreme Court. The candidates for the seat were Jefferson Griffin and Allison Riggs. Does anyone know how many North Carolina Supreme Court justices there are? 7. There's 7 now, you know. There's 7. And they serve for 6 years each. They're all elected, okay? They are partisan races. We currently have 5 Republicans on the North Carolina Supreme Court and 2 Democrats. So one of the Democrats, Allison Riggs, was running to keep her seat. 5.5 million votes were cast in that election. And Allison Riggs won by 734 votes. They don't call us a swing state for nothing. Now, while that's tight, back in 2020, there was a North Carolina Supreme Court race, and the justice who won only won by 401 votes. And that was a Democratic seat that we lost to a Republican. Allison Riggs won, but the margin was so slim that Jefferson Griffin was like, I'd like a recount. And the Board of Elections was like, that's completely within your rights. It was super close. So they recount. Her lead holds, it actually expands a little bit. And then Jefferson Griffin comes back and says, I would like another recount. And they're like, okay. And so they do a second recount. And then he asks for a third. And the Board of Elections was like, hard pass. You lost. So as we're getting to the end of December, the North Carolina Board of Elections is certifying all of those other races that were on your ballot. They all get certified, but they get to the 13th one, and Jefferson Griffin is like, I don't want you to certify that. So he files a flurry of lawsuits, state lawsuits, federal lawsuits. He goes to the North Carolina Supreme Court and says, I will be caused undue harm if you certify this race. And the North Carolina Supreme Court, in their 5-2 majority, says, we're going to file an injunction and we're going to wait. We're not going to certify this race. All the other races are going to be certified, but this one isn't. So what happens next is a legal game of ping pong that is insane. And unfortunately for these people, I have 3 sons that play so many sports ball activities. And I spend enormous amounts of time driving. I have a full-time job, but I'm mostly a taxi driver. And so when I drive my kids back and forth, I'm sitting in my car because I'm not interested in soccer. I'm sorry, sweetie. I'm not. And I read these things. And there's a group of moms that have been doing this. And we text each other a lot. So over the past 5 months, so since December, there have been 102 legal documents filed in this case. That's insane. It's been 125 days and they've filed 102 cases. Or court filings, sorry, not cases. So at the root of Griffin's argument is a request to throw out the votes of 65,000 North Carolinians. And 65,000 is a big number. Like if you were like, Heather, I'm going to write you a check for 65 grand, I'd be like, I am very happy right now, right? But to visualize how many people 65,000 people is, that's hard to visualize. So I'm going to paint you a picture for my Wolfpack fans. If we filled up Carter Finley Stadium at NC State with people, And we filled up Cameron Indoor Stadium at Duke with voters and had every one of those voters hold their ballots up. That's 65,000 people. And then we just set those on fire. Delete. That's what Jefferson Griffin is asking us to do. Now, remember, we're not deleting their entire ballot, just the 13th race. So, to be clear, not one of these voters have been found guilty of any type of fraud, and every single one of these voters cast their ballots legally in the November 2024 election. The voters Griffin is challenging fall into two buckets: people who voted in the state of North Carolina and people who voted abroad. And tonight we're going to focus on those ballots that were cast abroad. There are about 6,500 of them. And these voters are called UVA-CAVA voters, which is not a word, it's an acronym. And it stands for Uniformed and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act. Those of you who have served probably are familiar with this. The UVA-CAVA law was signed by Ronald Reagan about the year I was born. It's been around a while. And it protects members of uniformed services who are on active duty, as well as their spouses and dependents. And it also protects North Carolinians who are living abroad. So state and federal law are a little bit different for this group of voters because they can't go down to their local precinct and vote. They vote through a different system. And it does not require a photo ID. Didn't. Jefferson Griffin wants these people to show a voter ID 6 months after the election. And 2 weeks ago, the North Carolina Supreme Court agreed to toss these ballots if these people don't show a voter ID. So I'm going to give you another question. Who knows how many counties are in the state of North Carolina? Thank you. Yes. 100 counties. So across all 100 counties in the state of North Carolina, there were about 35,000 people who voted through UVA-CAVA voting. Jefferson Griffin is only asking that 6,500 of them be tossed, and only from 5 of North Carolina's 100 counties. Does anyone want to guess what those counties tend to lean towards? So the counties are actually Durham, Cumberland, which is extra nasty for our veterans. So our veterans at Fort Bragg, Forsyth, Buncombe, and Guilford. So 2 weeks ago, the North Carolina Supreme Court gave Jefferson Griffin the green light, and they said, cool, these votes can be thrown out. They have 30 days to cure. You have 30 days to send in a photo ID, or we're getting rid of your vote. Those who are on the first line to serve their country should not be the first in line to have their votes thrown out. There's one person on this list who is no longer alive. There's a captain, Rebecca Lobach, who was killed in January of this year when her helicopter collided with an airplane in Washington, D.C. She was on the Jefferson Griffin list. She can't cure her ballot. Should we allow her voice to be silenced? The current state of this case is fluid. It changes sometimes multiple times a day. But the current situation we're in at this moment is a federal judge has issued a stay. So the curing process hasn't started. We're in a pause. All of the legal people I listen to say we expect next week for that to change and for the curing process to start. Some of these people are deployed on aircraft carriers. Some people are stationed in Japan. And like I said, some people aren't alive anymore. And we will have 30 days to reach out to them and get them to send us a photo ID that was not necessary when they voted. So why this matters, big picture, what this means for democracy. At the root of this case, they want to sow doubt in democratic elections. A lot of people assume these voters have done something wrong. And in fact, they've done nothing wrong. The only person that's done anything wrong is Jefferson Griffin. It's confusing, and it's that way by design. It's a feature, not a bug. If you can't keep up with it, you'll disengage, you'll give up and go, it's just too much. Follow me on social media if you don't want to give up and you want us to be involved. And it also builds a roadmap for changing the outcome of elections. This court case is laying the groundwork to establish a precedent to be able to challenge close races. And if you don't like the election, you can just toss votes out. and they can turn and say, the North Carolina Supreme Court said that's cool. Last month, Wisconsin had a state Supreme Court race. I don't know, did anybody hear about that race? Okay. So it made it to big time news. Elon Musk alone dropped $20 million on that race. And thank you, right? And he still lost.
He's still losing.
Yes, he is. So that race, $90 million was spent on that race. Okay. These races are key components to the rule of law and the balance of power, especially in swing states. We have another North Carolina Supreme Court race in 2026. It will be obscene, I am sure. And so staying informed on these issues is incredibly important. So what can we do? Number one, you can stay informed. My girlfriends and I have a website. It's called itstherealsteal.com. I have a QR code over here if you want to scan. It'll send you to it. We have lots of calls to action on there, ways you can get involved. If you can amplify this case, talk to your friends, your family, your neighbors about this case, the more people that know, the better. And if you want to take some physical action, I'm a person who really likes to move my hands and feet when I feel hopeless. I have postcards over here and I have a QR code you can scan. It will send you to a website that'll tell you who represents you. You put in your address and it'll give you all your representatives. And I have postcards over here and you can write a postcard to your representative and ask them why they've been so quiet. Because if they care so much about veterans, why are you being complicit in allowing their votes to be thrown out? Each of the 4 Republican justices who voted for these ballots to be thrown out will be on our ballots over the next 5 years. And in just 3 years, 3 of the 4 justices who voted for this are on our ballot in 2028. And so it is our job to stay loud about this. I can't change what the North Carolina Supreme Court is doing, but I can make sure that they pay a political price in 2028 and we flip every one of their seats. And once we flip their seats, guess what we can get? Fair maps. Gerrymandering is the toxic burn pits of democracy. And it is easy to feel like there is not a way forward. It is easy to feel so distraught right now. But 2028 is not. Anyone who's had a kid, anyone who's had a toddler, I nursed my boys for 6 years between the 3 of them because we couldn't afford formula, not because I'm a great mom. I'm a cheap mom. That time is so hard and it feels like it's never going to end. You're never going to have a full night's sleep. And then one night, many years later, you're talking in front of a large group of people and you've left your teenagers at home and hopefully they're not doing anything they shouldn't be doing. It passes. It passes. 2028 is a blink in the arc of history. Can we do this for another 3 years? Yes, we can. And we are going to flip their seats. We are going to get fair maps. We are going to get people like Wiley Nickel back in Congress fighting for us. Thank you guys so much for your time.
All right, thank you to all of our speakers. Now we're getting to the audience participation time. So for those of you that would like to ask questions of our panel, and an empty chair if you want to, I would ask that if there's anybody that has any questions for Congressman Nickel, that you kind of raise your hand first. So if there's somebody who's going to come to you with a mic, is there anybody who has a question? Go ahead, over here.
First, I want to thank you all for taking the time to speak with us today. My name's Rory. I'm with 5051 Veterans. First, I knew everyone that was on the aircraft and during the pullout of Afghanistan. So I feel with you on that, Scott. Definitely need to protect our troops. But anyways, my apologies. There we go. Sorry. I'm a disabled veteran who receives all of my health care through the VA. Like many of my fellow veterans, I'm deeply concerned about the proposed cuts to the Department of Veterans Affairs and what those cuts could mean for the future of programs like the PACT Act. Support for military sexual trauma survivors, the Veteran Crisis Line, who I've used personally, and our ability to access timely quality care. With 83,000 jobs on the chopping block, no one can realistically claim that veterans' care won't suffer. We've seen this before. I remember vividly the time when veterans were dying while waiting for medical appointments. I've personally had to rely on the urgent care services at the VA, and I can say from experience that these resources save lives. Another critical issue that affects our community is the deportation of veterans. This is something many Americans don't even realize is possible. But the truth is, US citizenship is not a requirement for enlistment. There are veterans who served honorably, even heroically, and are now being deported from the very country they swore to defend. One such case is that of Jose Barco, a Purple Heart recipient. He was deported to Venezuela, a country he left behind to serve in our military, only to be turned away and sent back to a detention center in Texas. Right now, he's virtually stateless. The country where he was born refuses him, and the country he bled for wants him gone. What are your thoughts on these issues? And if elected to Senate, how will you stand up for veterans to protect our care, preserve our dignity, and ensure that no one who wore the uniform is ever left behind?
Rory, thank you so much for that. When I think about veterans, I think about my grandfather who served in the Navy during World War II. I think about my dad who served in the Army. And I want to make good bills into law in Washington. I want to stand up for our veterans. And that's what so much of this debate is about in Washington right now. Whether you got our back, whether we're going to get your back. And you brought up something I think that was especially important. You talked about the veteran suicide hotline. And I want to talk about that, but I want to talk also about the VA, which you mentioned. We've got great doctors like Dr. Horton. And what's happening now with these cuts, it's basically like Dr. Horton, you know, she's, there we go. I can just speak out loud here too. Yeah? All right, good. If you turn off the fan, I can speak up a little bit here, Lori. So when we talk about the VA, one of the things I think, you care about good public policy, you care about folks like my dad, my grandfather, and doctors, Dr. Horton, she is in the pros right now. She's made it to the major leagues for what she does. And what's happening right now in Washington is they're gutting. You have a Major League Baseball team, and maybe you've got 3-4 minor league teams. We're basically firing all of the minor league teams right now. And so when you're looking to fill these jobs in the majors, where are you going to get it? That's one of the big things that I'm especially worried about. But to talk about the Veterans Suicide Hotline, I'm going to ask you something here, and I'm sure everyone knows what the answer is. Does anyone know what the second leading cause of death of veterans under 45 is? Suicide. And so you care about good public policy. You understand that in Washington. And when you cheer on Elon Musk and the cuts that he's making to the veteran suicide hotline number, that's what you're cheering on. That's what Tom Tillis, that's what Brad Knott are cheering on. And it's indefensible. You can't stand here in front of a town hall and defend that. That's why they won't show up. That's why Brad Knott's not here. That's why Tom Tillis won't show up. And that's why what you're doing matters so much, because you have that leverage. Right now, in 2026, you have that leverage against Tom Tillis at the ballot box. You get to make your voice heard. Tom Tillis has won twice in North Carolina by less than 49% each time. This isn't North Carolina. You can't gerrymander the boundaries of the state of North Carolina. That's where you use your leverage to talk about what you want, to make folks be accountable to every single person. And we're talking about these issues, and we're going to have big votes in Congress. We're going to see major cuts to veterans' health care and to so many of the programs we care about. But that's why what you're doing here tonight matters so much. And I encourage you to keep doing it because we want good public policy in Washington. And when people stand up and Trump sees it, he backs down. That's what we're seeing in Washington on so many of these issues. So please, the only thing I can really say right now is keep doing what you're doing. It matters, it makes a difference, and it is working.
Okay, let's see. Does it work better if we stand over here? All right.
Yeah, I don't need a microphone.
So,
Mr. Nickel,
Congressman Nickel, you need to leave.
one more question, sir.
Okay, stand more over this way. I think it'll be good.
Okay, all right.
I don't need that.
No reverb.
I'm a veteran. I served 86 to 91, Iraq War. My father served during Vietnam, was a veteran, diagnosed with cancer. Told he had to come up with $12,000 to be treated. They couldn't serve him in the veterans clinic. He died of a UTI. He died of a UTI because the veterans could not serve him. What are you going to do about that, sir?
Thank you for your service. Thank you for sharing that. Let me tell you, what I will do and what I will promise you is I will fight with every ounce of my energy for veterans in North Carolina and around the country to make sure we hold our end of the deal, the end of the bargain. You serve our country, we're going to have your back. That means good health care, means good benefits, means safe working conditions where you don't have to worry about toxic burn exposures. And when we do something wrong, we fix it. So, I can tell you, I can promise you, as your senator, I will be here. I will show up. I did it as a congressman 16 times, and I had protesters. I had tough questions, but it's what makes Washington work. When you have access to your member of Congress, to your senator, you can really do things in Washington. And if you don't show up, it means you're not working for the people anymore. You're working for Donald Trump and Elon Musk, and that's the problem right now. And the biggest problem, I say, if you had Brad not here and you talked to him about the veteran suicide hotline or something else, he'd say, "Oh, I'm with you. I'm going to fix it." But where the rubber meets the road is when these issues come to vote. When you have the leverage, when you have the ability to vote yes or no, or to say, "I'm not going to vote for this budget if you don't support veterans." And that's going to be the choice in Washington. And I had so many Republicans I worked with in Congress who would say one thing privately. They say, "No, this is horrible. We don't like it. I hate it." But then when it came time to vote, they'd vote the wrong way every single time. And that is what's killing our democracy right now. We have checks and balances in the Constitution, and that's what we need in Washington. We need a Senate that is going to advise and consent and do its job, and that's what I'm fighting for.
All right, thank you, Congressman Nickel. Unfortunately, he has to take off right now. So thank you so much for attending our event. So we'll move on with the our other participants. So would anybody like? I don't know what is going on with this feedback.
Stay behind the table.
Yeah, it's weird. I wasn't doing this before. What's that? Okay, over here.
Good evening. My name is Chris Stevenson. I'm a retired veteran. I retired 30 years ago after 20 years on active duty. My father had 8 sons. 5 of us retired from the military, so being a veteran is my family business. When I joined the military and I came back from Southeast Asia, guess what? I flew into San Francisco. I made a beeline for the showers to take off my uniform because guess what? I wasn't welcome in this country. I was not welcome in this country. I'm going to ask you, all of you, you don't have to answer, but how many of you have sons? Heather, you have 3 sons. How many of you have grandsons? How many of you have nephews? How many of you have nieces? What's going on right about now? It's too late for me. I'm 70 years old. But it's your kids, your grandkids, your nieces, your nephews, that the changes that are being made is going to impact. I wrote that check 50 years ago. Up to and including my life. When I came home, guess what? It was time for the U.S. government to pay it off. Now you're reneging. You've lost credibility with me. Is that what you want? Is that what you want for your sons and daughters? Is that what you want for your grandsons and your granddaughters, your nieces and your nephews? Because if it is, don't do anything. Don't do anything. Just sit there. But if it's not palatable to you, it's time to stand up.
Thanks, sir. Thank you for your service. Would anybody like to address?
Okay.
Hey y'all, my name is Adrian Brakely. I'm a recent resident here in Johnston County. I'm also the president of the Young Democrats of Johnston County.
Way to go.
All these beautiful people over here. Now, I wrote this down earlier and I had to change it up a little bit, but I wanted to make sure he already left. But when it comes to Wiley Nickel, Brad Knott's not here. He is, and he's going to be here every single time. And I think we all need to remember that. So what I wanted to ask before Brad Knott did not show up was how he has time to write op-eds and not take a single call from a constituent. How does he have time to go and play golf at Mar-a-Lago, but not time to come down here and instead sends his aides to the Smithfield Library or to the Clayton Library to talk to constituents? Thank you. That's a good word. Sycophant. Brad Knott says he's running to stand up for veterans, to protect our benefits, and to support young mothers. Do you believe him when he says that?
No.
Tonight we were here to answer questions, or he was here to answer questions. Do you think he's ever going to answer to any of us?
No.
So I ask you, when it comes time, 2026, you need to start asking yourselves, I know I certainly am asking myself this every single day, what are you willing to do to make sure that when 2026 comes, if not here in NC-13, what are you going to do to support people who are running in this country, in this state, in this district, that are actually going to support people like you and me? Everybody needs to ask themselves that. So my question is, what are y'all willing to do?
Good question.
I want to address Brad Knott first. Can you guys hear me okay?
Please do.
Echoey. Okay. So Brad Knott does not have an office in this district. He also doesn't live in this district. Does everyone know that? He lives in Raleigh. Well, here's the funny backdrop to Brad Knott. He doesn't live in the district. He didn't win the primary. Do you guys know that? He lost the primary. But the first round, he didn't even win the primary, correct? And he doesn't even go here. You know? I have a complicated relationship with the 13th district. I live between Holly Springs and Fuquay, and my son goes to Fuquay Verena High School. He's in Brad Knott's district, and I work down in Lee County. I work down in Sanford. I'm a pediatric audiologist. I serve 15,000 students in that county. I do CDSA, I do preschool, I do school-age kids. My job is to make sure all those kids can hear. So I'm in his district a lot. But I got drawn out. My house is about 2 miles from the line now. So it's weird. It's like we're exes. Like I'm still into him. I'm visiting all the time, but I'm not really there. And so, you know, his district, you were a gift to the Republican Party. The way this district is drawn, I don't know how, I spend a lot of time looking at gerrymandered maps because they just infuriate me. And this district makes a giant C. So it goes up to Yanceyville, Virginia, like right on the border, right? And then it snakes its way over here. If you were to drive the full district and stay in the district all the way to the bottom of the district, it would take you 4 hours. 4 hours. We need some very strong opposition to run against Brett Knott in 2026. And I don't know if that means we need a Republican who is a rhino, which I feel like should be a badge of honor at this point, if we need somebody to primary him, right? Or if we need a really strong opposition member running in the other party. But he's not here because he doesn't go here. I guess that's what my response is. And what can we do? We can stay engaged. It's overwhelming. One of us can't fix it. If you ask my husband back here, I sometimes think I can fix it. You're so sweet. It's not enough. So here's the thing. If each of us does something, that collective action will move the needle. It doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like it. Like my little Instagram account, I've got 3,700 people that follow me, which feels like my sons are always like, our mom is a nano influencer. And I am. So here's the thing. I checked my views on my little Instagram account that I do from my little car that has 210,000 miles on it while I'm driving my kids around. My account reached 1 million people over the past 90 days. I'm not saying that because I'm special. I'm saying that because I'm one person, and if each person does something and you do it consistently and you show up together, we can be the change we wish to see. And my last I want to do a shout out to this amazing gentleman in the back. I do have 3 sons, and I have had a heartbreaking conversation with my oldest because he wanted to go into the Air Force. And I am terrified of what he would be asked to do if he went into the Air Force now. He's 17 years old. My grandfather is one of 3 boys. I had 3 sons just like my great-grandmother, and all 3 of her sons served in World War II. And I think about her often because I struggle when my kids go away on Boy Scout camp. And I do not know how she dealt with all of them being deployed. 2 of them are fighter pilots. And my grandfather was a code breaker, the OG nerd. So I don't have all the answers, but I hope you guys can each find something this evening that is collective action you can do together. And we do that over and over. We can move the needle.
Thank you very much for your question. Yeah, and to share your frustrations with calling his office, I do it weekly. Like I said, doing everything I can to get info about the Garner VA or anything. And I think, like I said, I think it's starting to break through. It took 2 months to get my first response, but so that would be the first thing I would encourage you, because they do track these complaints. So, you know, if it's an issue that's important to you, call or email his office on a daily basis. Like I said, if you're not getting through, it might not feel like you're doing anything, but if there's a cumulative amount of people that are doing it, they'll get the message. And about what you can do to kind of piggyback on what Heather was saying. So just a little bit about my background. Like, I served for 5 years. I was very proud of it, but I didn't, compared to the gentleman that just spoke back there with his incredible career, I just your normal veteran when you got out. I got out in 2014. So I grew up in a Republican family. John McCain was my political hero, and wasn't that political. I mean, I voted, but after the 2016 election, I realized this is not normal, and I had to get involved in a more meaningful way. So in 2020, some of you may remember, there was a group called Republican Voters Against Trump that were either current or former Republicans. They asked to submit a a video about something that, or why you left the Republican Party or can't support President Trump. So I just, for whatever reason, felt compelled. I was one of the very first videos they had. I made a video after the first transgender troop ban in the military. Now, I'm not super knowledgeable on the topic, but all I saw was there was a 5-time draft dodger that was kicking people out of the military that rose their right hand and decided to serve their country because he didn't like who they were or was uncomfortable with who they were. And something in me just says that is the most un-American thing I've ever seen in my life. I have to at least say something. So I put out a video, and as the young one said, I guess it went kind of viral. And the people that started that organization, you may follow them there. They now run the organization, The Bulwark, Tim Miller, Sarah Longwell, Bill Crystal. They came to me and asked if I wanted to put my face on a billboard all across North Carolina that says, I'm a veteran, I'm a former Republican, I'm voting for Joe Biden. And I was like, fuck it, let's do it. So I was on 7 billboards across the state, and Joe Biden won, and I thought, thank God this nightmare is over. Like I'm sure we all did. And I kind of went back to my normal life, and then the Republicans decided to renominate Donald Trump, and I got a call from the what was the Biden campaign asking me if I wanted to be a co-chair of the Republicans for Biden, which became the Republicans for Harris coalition. And it was just a whirlwind. All of a sudden, I'm speaking before Kamala Harris, talking about veterans issues, Governor Walz, Governor Cooper, now Governor Stein. And I was like, how the hell did I get here? Who the hell am I? Why does anyone give a shit what I have to say? But all that to say is you never know what can happen if you put yourself out there. Do not be afraid to speak your mind for what you believe in. So, because you never know what one mind you can change or how it can snowball. That would be my advice. And then one other plug for Vet the Vote. I've done it twice. And if you want to experience democracy at the grassroots level and just meet the most amazing people, just do it for one cycle. Volunteer to be a poll worker or an election worker, because they're under assault after all the lies from the 2020 election. That's one of the worst parts that come out of that, is these patriotic Americans that are just trying to do their civic duty. Now Trump is calling fraud on them. So we need people, veterans that are not afraid to stand up if people come into poll offices and try to cause chaos, that can stand their ground. And we need younger generations. When I did the poll working, I was the youngest person by 25 years. So thank you to all the seniors that continue to do your duty as the poll workers. You all are the real heroes.
Yeah, I'll be super quick. So how I came into politics was actually at the time that I was a VA physician. We were suffering the delays. I was supposed to have 900 patients. I had 1,569 patients on my panel, and that was with doing an ER shift a week. And I was supposed to do teaching, basically responsibilities, and supervise in the hospital for 4 weeks out of the year. Is that even possible? No, it's not. And so I nearly lost patients to suicide and delays in care in the way that a UTI became deadly for your family. This is why I'm here today. This is why I ran. So when I ran, I used to tell the story about a multi-generational family. The veteran was clearly suffering from emotional pain and not physical pain when I saw him. So I realized I did not give him the opiates that he was requesting, and those were his means to complete suicide. He came back to the clinic to thank me, which still breaks my heart to this day. And he wanted his dad to meet me and to thank me because he was still there and his life was saved. His dad had served in Vietnam and actually had a kidney cancer related to Agent Orange exposure that was denied, that was nearly fatal, that he should have been screened for, right? And so at that time, the suicide data report also was being formulated. It was 22 veterans a day was the estimate at that time. So we started working on the Clay Hunt Save Act that we mentioned. It was 22 million over 5 years for pilot programs. Okay, and one U.S. Senator, Tom Coburn from Oklahoma, blocked it. Okay, I was on the Hill with Senator Sanders, and I called my family. I'm like, get the bail money ready. I'm in Coburn's office. He won't meet with a fellow physician colleague about this shit. Okay, they approved in the CR an additional $100 million to make the Capitol Dome refurbishment, that make the Capitol Dome look extra pretty at that time. That was their spending priority instead of 22 veteran lives a day. So the thing is, we raised awareness, we got it over the hurdle eventually, but look where we're taking 8,000 steps back with Captain Bonespurs. Block the parades, okay? June 6th, we need everybody to show up wherever you are. Wherever you are, it's totally fine, okay? It's the D-Day anniversary. Show up in the small town in Kentucky, like Sandy Hook, Kentucky, where my grandma didn't even get running water inside until like the 80s, right? Okay, she would have been out there. That was the one county. Look it up. It's Elliott County in Kentucky. They voted for Obama twice. You know who broke the cycle of electing Democrats in that super poor Kentucky, almost all white county? It was Trump's phony populism that cut through. So you guys are the antithesis to that, okay? Veterans deserve more than flag pins, promises, and parades. They don't deserve these cuts. This is un-American BS. Your bracelet is the antidote. Start a conversation with someone you know who's MAGA. Remember, HEGSET came from Concerned Veterans for America that was funded by the Koch brothers, remember? That's the only veteran service organization that doesn't actually serve veterans. They are just advancing this right-wing political agenda in Project 2025 that you all realize that Trump wrote, and all the Heritage Foundation cronies and all their buddies and stuff wrote this. That's HEGSET's plan, okay? This cannot happen. This is fascism. We're starting down the road toward it right now. We're going to get there, sooner rather than later. Do whatever you can. If you can get arrested, be willing. I was willing in that moment. I was like, okay, here we go. If you can't, it's fine. Get someone else to stand up for you who can, okay? Who can get out there, who can be on the billboards. You can sign these petitions, okay? Remember, this is about action and whatever you are capable of doing, because everyone can do something, including just a conversation.
Thank you. All right, do we have any other questions? Over here, Brian. Over there, lady.
I'm not as loud as or maybe I am. So there's a little bit of an imposter system. I'm not a veteran. I'm married to one. I'm the daughter of one. I am a 26-year veteran of teaching civics and government to high school students. Well, you say that now. There's been some profanity. Okay, so I've been teaching, right? I started in 99. And they say it's always fun to live in interesting times when you teach politics. Nah. Okay. There's a question in here somewhere, right? So I teach government, I teach politics, I teach the AP government politics class, I teach regular civics, government, all that stuff. It's really hard and becoming increasingly harder to teach kids today, right? Our future leaders of America to love this country, to serve this country, and that our system works. Right. Mm-hmm. When the crap show, it's still Friday, I was at work that day, but when the crap show is still going on, right? And so, Nickel had to leave, I get it, it's fine, never shows up, but it's like education, military recruitment right now sucks. people don't want to join. The benefits are terrible. They're gone. The respect for the military, right?
Yeah.
And I'm teaching them that America is democracy and America is this and America is that. And it's really freaking hard to hold this together. Forget we're getting DOE. Forget that children won't have breakfast or lunch. There are other issues. This is a veterans thing. And I get that. But when we talk about education, we feed the military. We get you. I mean, my job as a civics teacher is to get these kids pretty riled up about freaking red, white, and blue and go for it. And I'm pretty good at that. But it's becoming overwhelmingly impossible to sell it. And I didn't have to sell it, right? It sold itself.
Right.
So this is more of a plea to everyone in the sense, I love Civic Mom. Yay, Civic Mom, right? And I will talk to you after, since I teach at the school that your kid goes to.
Yeah, 2 degrees of separation.
There's not even 2 degrees of separation here, girl. And I hope I didn't fuck them or whatever. Anyway, but, they're like, that was the hardest teacher I ever had. What? But so it's veterans benefits are, my husband, who already spoke, who didn't need a mic, and I don't at 7 a.m. either, but right now, yes. But also, this is just funding. It's just straight up funding for the things that we hold dear and valuable, and I know it's an impossible question to answer. What will we do? How can we teach the kids that it's worth it? That our system works, right? That this is a democracy of free people. And how to do that, how to best do that, how we can all do that. To the gentleman whose entire family served the military in one way or the other, your mother, bless her, right? Because good Lord, kind of thing. Where do we get that today? And I'm, 26 years, I got 4 years, man, I'm hanging on. But it's, still, so my question is, to all of you, think about this. Think about how we can encourage the youth of today to believe in this country, to enlist in the military, to want to serve. When we've got I'm just going to stick with crap show version of what we've got going on. Well, yeah, but I'm just, I'm very GPG rated. You had your hand up earlier. Did you have a all right. But anyway, how do we teach them? And by the way, Harnett County wants to get rid of fluoride in the water, so be careful.
I can't.
Just be careful. Anyway, all right, I'm done. Thanks. Sorry, bye.
That is a phenomenal issue. I'm not even going to call it a question. It's a crisis with our young people. Did you happen to have Ben Bosley? Oh my God, she taught my son. He's hard to miss. He's 6'2", and he's got.
I love Ben.
Thank you. He's got the llama, the alpaca hair, that all the teens have. So he's 6'2", but then he's got this bubble thing.
He did really
Yes.
well on the AP exam.
Oh my God! Okay. Well,
Best sport, by the way.
it is Volley Bros. So let me tell you about this woman's class because
No.
no. Listen, my son has dyslexia and he struggles enormously with it. And your class, this is what a good educator does. He would come home after school and he struggles so much to read. I would sit on my back porch and read your textbook aloud to my child.
I'm so sorry.
No, I love this stuff. And he learned it. The challenge with our youth, we're so disconnected. We were disconnected before COVID, but COVID was an accelerant like no other. And we don't come together in community. We don't come together like this. And these kids, these high schoolers, have very shallow relationships. You know, they're snapping each other, or I can't even keep up with all of the different things. I think some type of mandatory service, some type of civic mandatory service for young people to remind them that, guys, we're all on the same team. We're all on the same team. You might be right, you might be left, you might be middle, you might be trans. We're all on the same team.
Duty for country.
Duty for country. I think we need to bring some type of civic engagement back. The best thing I have done for my children is get involved in Scouts. My husband over here became the Cub Scout master. Brandon, raise your hand. Pack 66, Raleigh Springs. It will come as a shock to you. I was the popcorn colonel for 5 years. I've sold $200,000 worth of popcorn in Holly Springs. So, listen, it's a ripoff. It's terrible. But it's ridiculous. But let me tell you what we did with that money. With that money, I took 66 Scouts down to South Carolina, and we camped out on an aircraft carrier. We've done it twice. And then, but we didn't have anybody to be the leader of our Scouts. We have a huge community. No one would stand up. Everybody loves our pack, but nobody wants to lead our pack. And that's not just happening in Cub Scouts. And so I volunteered my husband that he had to do this and that I would finance it and we would go on cool trips. So this is one thing I've done with my family. When Trump originally came into office, I was working down in Sanford, North Carolina, and I was in a small private practice. I grew up outside Washington, D.C. I've been here 20 years, though. And I've given birth 3 times here, so I'm pretty much a North Carolinian. And while I was down in Sanford during Trump's first run, everybody kept telling me how Trump was for real America, real Americans. And I was like, who are the real Americans? Like, did I miss something? Right? And so after Trump won his first race, my husband and I packed our kids up that Christmas and we drove from Raleigh, North Carolina to Santa Barbara, California. And we went to every single national park that was on our way. Our youngest was 2 years old. We've gone cross country 6 times. And I have shown my children what America is. And what I have learned we did the calculations, we've actually driven the circumference of the earth and half in all of our trips. What I have learned in Montana and Kansas and West Virginia and rural Maine is that we are so much more alike than we are different. We are so much more alike. I had a sweet, sweet lady serve me at a Chick-fil-A in Kansas, and she came up to me and she said, "Where are y'all from?" And I said, "We're from North Carolina." And she said, "Oh, do you go to Canada often?" And I realized she thought I meant North Dakota. And the thing is, people don't get out of their bubbles often. And some type of civic service, when you go out, the Army Corps, or no, it's, what's the CCC during the Conservation Corps, they built so much of our national parks. So much. They were good jobs. They were young people. And they were able to get out of their little town bubble and expand their mind. And one of the troubles we have right now, somebody was asking what the future looks like for young people. College is insane. You should not have to sign up for debt for the rest of your life to get out of your town, right? We have got to get back to the basics of serving our nation and getting education. And I feel like some type of civil service might possibly be that.
I agree. Wayne County voted it down.
Hard pass. I'll have to go talk to somebody about that.
I really didn't plan to say anything, but I just wanted to throw something out to my fellow teacher over there. Taught American history myself. I was listening to Ezra yesterday afternoon, Ezra Klein from Indivisible, and he said two things that I think are worth repeating. One is that, and pardon me, July 14th is Flag Day, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Trump is planning to have his military parade, and I understand it's his birthday. And what Indivisible is planning on, and they're asking for opinions right now, is how many people would participate in a mass demonstration that day. Do not go to Washington, D.C. Have it somewhere else. The idea is that nobody shows up for his parade. Okay? You want to pass that around to anybody. It's if you go on indivisible.org, you might be able to put your comment in about that, because he said he was looking for comments to see if people were for that or not. Okay? The other thing he mentioned, which you have to keep in mind, I totally forgot about this myself, is that Trump isn't going to be there forever, and he's not going to be there in 2029. And as Ezra said, what's coming next is the era of accountability. It won't be for Trump. He'll go away and live his life until he doesn't. But all of his enablers are going to have to face what they've done. And there will be this era of accountability, as he said. And if I had a classroom now, I would talk about that. I would talk about what these people are going to face when this is all over. And hopefully the Democratic Party won't wimp out on that. Okay.
Yeah, real quick, Steve, just to double up on what Heather was saying too, just about service, just wanted to bring, like I said, as an advocate, some causes that might not be aware to the masses yet. But a week or two ago, the Trump administration put all the AmeriCorps volunteers, or the AmeriCorps Corporation, on administrative leave. So if we're talking about these are the people 18 to 26 that get college, help with their funding when they go out into our communities, and they do a lot of work for veterans. They help veterans with repair homes. They help mentor youth. They help run wheelchair disability sporting programs, and that's going to save nothing for our overall budget. And who the hell is that helping? That's talking about we should be promoting service, and we now have our administration stopping the very organizations that are helping serve our communities. So, first is voting those people out of office so we can get people that are going to promote service. But along with the funding, the VA and the public health education system are, in my eyes, intertwined in the way that people speak about them. People are always like, VA sucks, or the public education system. It's because we don't fucking fund them, give them the money that they need, pay our teachers what they deserve, hire more teachers, more special, just like I have a son that's has a learning disability as well, and luckily his school has some special education teachers. But let's fund these programs that serve our communities to capacity, and then let's see what they can do, because people like yourself, you're there to serve, you're in it for the right reasons. And if we hire quality people and we give these, the VA and the public education system the funding it deserves, the future's bright. But we just need to stop, fear mongering about that these organizations don't work, or these services don't work. It's because they've never been properly fully funded. So, along with the VA, the public education system, that's something right up there with my top issues as well. So thank you for what you do.
And Dr. Horton, do you have final word? Do you want to say anything before we end for tonight? Sure.
Famous last words. I promise I'll be brief. So I was at a town hall last night in Alamance County with Maxwell Frost and Chris Murphy. It was So one piece that they discussed, going back to the VA and going back to public education, it's this concept of demonizing these public services and the servants that are doing them. What they want to do is pull this money away from our public goods and then go, look, it doesn't work. It's a mess. We have to privatize this. They want to take our public goods and turn them into their private assets. No, thank you. That's exactly right. $500 million in private school vouchers last year. $500 million. And what did all the private schools do? They raised their tuition. It's a coupon. That's exactly right. And so that is something that I would assume they're going to try to do with the VA is they're going to go, this is such a mess.
That's what they want
Yeah,
to do.
this is such a mess. So you're right. It's the same story. These aren't separate stories. These are public goods that are tied together. They're pointing to them, defunding them, and then going, look, they don't work. And we have to stand in the gap. And I think we can do it.
All right, we're going to take one final question from this gentleman, please. Like this into the mic.
Okay. Hello, my name's Ben Sandiford. I'm the secretary of the Young Dems chapter here in Johnston County. Yeah, I'm glad to see so many people will turn up to this event. It's a hopeful sign for what's to come. But and of course, my hat's off to everyone, to all the speakers here for doing what they're doing. It's all very important, and we got your back. Well, yeah, this is a question I've thought a lot about recently. As we all know, ICE is running rampant. They're not even pretending that illegal immigration is their issue anymore. They're going after legal residents. They'll probably be kidnapping citizens soon. And well, very recently, they decided to arrest a judge who was not cooperative. Anyway, what steps could we take to protect friends and family, like the Afghan refugees, from ICE?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. No, this is absolutely one of the most important and insanely anti-American issues going on right now. So it's directly speaking from my experience with the Afghan refugees. There are so many great organizations locally that are doing everything they can to protect these refugees, to help find them legal counsel, to help keep them safe, to help give them hope. The organization that I worked for was World Relief. It's in Durham. And, first of all, organizations like that need funding. Another aspect of this is with all the federal funding freezes, organizations like World Relief were already set to receive Afghan families that were all ready to come here right before Trump's election. And unfortunately, they did not make the deadline. They already had places set up for them, flights booked, and they were told, no more, you're not welcome here. So just volunteering at organizations like that could make a huge difference. Someone doing a lot of really good work is just the district over, Congressman Deborah Ross. So, I call her office a lot, and she's been a huge voice for the Afghan refugee community. So, this is an issue I'm going to keep, knocking down the door on Brad Knott's office. But yeah, definitely in a world of Brad Knotts, be a Deborah Ross, as I like to say. But anyone else can speak to that? Yeah.
The only organizations that are local to you, also, you probably have people in your communities that are terrified right now. And if you have people in your community that are vulnerable, reach out to them. Reach out to them. Make them dinner, something, because it is a very, very scary time in America. As a person who was born here, I'm scared. And I think the more we can get involved locally, and I'm talking like in your precinct, find these families and protect these families.
And I'll add a final comment. There is an organization called Siembra, NC. That's their whole purpose in life is protecting, people, immigrants from ICE. So, I would definitely look them up if you're not familiar with them. Siembra, it's SIEMBRANC, right? So I believe that's it, or it could be SEI. I don't know. It's so anyway. Sorry. All right. Okay. All right. I'm coming this way. I'm coming this way.
The other mic is off.
The other mic. Turn the other mic off. Just press it and hold it. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. But anyway, we're going to conclude now. If you didn't get your answer tonight, we will have future events. So please come back. Hopefully, all of you got our information to follow our Facebook page. I'm not really adapted doing a lot of social media. So right now, we just have the old-fashioned Facebook page. I'm really hoping somebody will join our group that's really good at social media. Hey, Pat.
I just had one very quick thing. I heard somebody say that maybe Brad Knott's people are not coming out there. Out here, I've gone to talk to them twice at the library, and I also have his district director's card now so that I can find out, because they don't advertise this. And I was there like a little bit before 1, and that was when they were leaving, it was 1. And I said, how many people have come to talk to you? And they said 4 people before me.
Yeah.
But it's because nobody knows they're there.
That's right. Keep advertising that. And then you guys as young Dems too, tonight can start our countdown. So this is day 1 of him not showing up for a town hall, right? So just start a countdown and do a little video each day as to why you're requesting a town hall with a different issue that he's not showing up for the county on. And then basically, Pat, do the same thing with them as coordinate when you're showing up for the office. And the next time, just invite the media and see what they do as the office staff. They'll try to get the media out of there. But if we start a town hall countdown, that may build. We did that leading into when I launched my congressional campaign, and it proved to be effective. The media did show up. We did like a Valentine's Day, have a heart, and like show up for healthcare. And remember, all these social safety net programs, these are all disproportionately harming kids, seniors, our military, and our veterans, period. USAID, Medicaid, Medicare cuts, okay, targeting the VA. This is a war on veterans. It's a war on the disabled. It's, they're attacking DEI because that's basically the Nazi playbook, right? Is they went after the disabled first. They went after, obviously people of color, people who were gay, you name it, right? And that and what they're doing with ICE is basically like the precursor to concentration camps, right? I mean, that's the playbook. So keep embodying the values. Tell your kids that you're showing up for democracy, and remind them that democracy is not a spectator sport, right? And so remind them of the hypocrisy of the founders. And hey, we've been here before, right, guys? I mean, we know this, okay? So, I mean, this is not a totally unprecedented moment. And I think that's a good message for the kids. Look what I did. This was a nonpartisan town hall. I showed up for veterans. We had, people who were Republicans. Just remind them how you're embodying the values that you're trying to sell them on. And then any of those scouting, I was in Girl Scouts too, athletics, things like that give you other opportunities to show how we're banding together and how people can work together, across differences, whether those are political or otherwise. And there's nothing more American than that, seriously. Yeah.
All right, so we have all the reports. All right, everybody, thank you so much for coming out tonight. How often do you get to rub shoulders with people who think like you, right? So let's give Raleigh Brewing some JoCo some love. Right?